It may seem like a small detail, but making sure your marketing is on point is the best way to secure yourself with your ideal tenant, who will want to live in your unit for many years to come. But hey, here's the deal. We are here to help guide you as a DIY landlord. If you learned one thing by listening today, that makes us happy. Welcome to your Landlord Resource Podcast. Many moons ago, when I started as a landlord, I was as green as it gets. I may have had my real estate license, but I lacked confidence and the hands-on experience needed when it came to dealing with tenants, leases, maintenance, and bookkeeping. After many failed attempts, fast forward to today, Kevin and I have doubled our doors and created an organized, professionally operated rental property business. Want to go from overwhelmed to confident? If you're an ambitious landlord or maybe one in the making, join us as we provide strategies and teach actionable steps to help you reach your goals and the lifestyle you desire, all while building a streamlined and profitable rental property business. This is your Landlord Resource Podcast.
Hello there, amazing landlords. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast today. My name is Kevin, and I'm here with my personal chef, Stacy.
I think that's a compliment.
Yes, of course it is. You've been on top of eating healthier the last couple of weeks, and I've really enjoyed your creations.
All right, so let me explain. If you're a regular listener, you know that Kevin and I have been doing a lot of traveling lately, and we are foodies. So with that traveling, we have enjoyed some amazing food. Unfortunately, that food includes a lot of sugar and carbs that we usually don't eat and has left us feeling like crap.
And maybe it's also the 10 pounds each we've gained in the process too.
Yeah, no kidding. So several years ago, we did a Whole30 diet and felt amazing afterwards, obviously. Sugar and carbs were the two items we found that we needed to avoid. So we're back at working toward that goal. Just need to take it one day at a time, I guess. Kevin, what's your favorite healthy meal that I make?
Oh man, I can only pick one. I think the slow cooker chicken salsa verde. Wait, maybe the Greek stuffed zucchini with the lamb and feta. That Mediterranean roasted chicken thighs with the citrusy seasoning and then the pine nuts and the yogurt, that's good too.
Oh, I like that citrusy seasoning. It's called sumac. It's one of my new favorite spices to use. I guess we should get on with the show.
That's probably a good idea. All this food talk is making me hungry.
Yeah, no kidding. Me too. Okay, welcome to part 2 of our best tips for marketing your rental property. Last week, we discussed knowing all you can about the neighborhood that surrounds your unit and what amenities to include in your ad copy. Kevin gave some very awesome detailed tips on taking great pictures of the interior and exterior spaces of your rental property. And now we're on to the important business stuff. So today we're going to talk about making sure your ads are fair housing compliant, as well as historically when the best time is to market your rental, and what to do if you have a vacancy during not so optimal times. And we will discuss where to market and place your ads.
So let's start with fair housing. The Fair Housing Act's definition of advertising is broad and includes almost everything written or verbal that relates to the provision of real estate-related services. So when it comes to advertising, all housing, including single-family homes, owner-occupied housing, or multifamily with 4 or less units that normally may be exempt from fair housing policies are not. You cannot express a preference for certain characteristics or exclude individuals based on a protected class. The law says you can't use, quote, words, phrases, symbols, or forms of any kind, unquote, that would tend to give the impression that your property is available or not available to certain types of people. Now, as we stated last week, write your ad directed towards your target market, like college students, families, professionals, etc. But never specifically state this target market in your ad. You don't want to say, great schools in the area, perfect for families with small children, or will rent only to English speaking college students, or rental not available to tenants with small children, or even Christian roommates only. In no way can you call out a protected class, which really, in some shape, manner, or form, can really apply to anyone these days. What you do want to do is focus on the property and its amenities, not the ideal renter. Put as much information in there to draw what a tenant would like about living there without naming that class of tenants.
Yeah, exactly. So, what you do not want to do is make anyone feel excluded. So, you may say in your ad that the schools in the area are highly rated, but you also will note that the parks nearby offer a playground, yoga on the weekends, and sport courts. Maybe you also want to note there are many great restaurants, or your rental property is walking distance to the university and there's hiking trails within a mile that they can enjoy. All things both families but single people would like to do too. And this goes without saying, but never ever single out who you do or you don't want to rent from based on their race or culture. This is a surefire way to get sued. If you include photos with people on your website, brochures, or flyers, it is recommended that you include a variety of races, cultures, and disabled people to show that you are open to accepting everyone who qualifies. As we say in each and every episode, know your local and state fair housing laws, as they may be even broader or more specific than the federal laws. The last thing we will say is, at the end of your ad, include the phrase equal housing opportunity or use the fair housing logo on your photos. This signifies your commitment to fair housing to your audience and to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. They will also consider this language when determining if you have a fair housing complaint against you. We mentioned it recently in our newsletter, but the Department of Housing and Urban Development has $30 million that it is distributing to all fair housing agencies throughout the U.S. to have testers. These testers will assess whether landlords and property managers are engaging in discriminatory practices. Testers can come from various backgrounds and different organizations. They can work for state fair housing departments, private fair housing advocacy groups, or the Department of Justice. Regardless of who they work for, their goal is to ascertain whether landlords and property managers are following the law and are fair housing compliant. If you violate the law, you will be fined. Those fines are going to funnel back into the testing system and allow the program to continue. So testers use leading questions to target known trouble spots within the industry. Vague or leading questions should immediately set off warning bells in your mind that you're talking to a tester. You should be sure that you are not saying or doing anything that can be interpreted as a violation.
Yeah, well, maybe you're wondering, where might you come across a tester? Essentially, any place a potential renter would cross paths with a leasing agent can be a testing ground. Testers employ all forms of contact, including phone, email, social media outlets, and on-site visits. By far, though, the phone is the most widely used, as it is the most cost and time efficient. The two most common topics are, what are your pet policies? Someone may call and say they're interested in your property, but they want to see if their dog is allowed. Oh, and the dog is a pit bull. If you noticed, they said their dog, not their pet. Now, if you assume this dog is a pet and may not pass your breed restrictions and you mention it, you could set yourself up for a housing complaint. It happens quickly, so you must be prepared. The second most common issue is they'll ask if the property is accessible. Now, consider this scenario. A person calls in and asks if the property is accessible because they require the use of mobility aids. It's crucial to note that even if the property is not very accessible and you have the best of intentions, you should never disclose this information and should avoid recommending more accessible properties. This can appear as discrimination and steering, which are violations of fair housing laws. The correct response is to encourage them to visit the property's website, to see more images, and arrange for a tour if they wish. You should never discourage a potential renter from coming in to take a tour or fill out an application under any circumstances.
So, Kev, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we had someone several years ago that called and asked if our one-bedroom unit was accessible. It's not for wheelchair, but it could be for someone with a cane or crutches. They did not specify what their handicap was, nor did I ask. I knew I could not discourage them from applying, so I simply said, I'm happy to send you photos of the walkway and the entry to the unit so you can determine if this unit is a good fit for you. They asked how many stairs there were, which I responded with approximately 6, and they thanked me, but I never heard from them again. Remember, if someone is disabled and they want to pay to modify the stairs for their use, that's within their rights to do that. And in some states, a landlord may be required to foot the bill for these modifications. So again, know your fair housing laws for your city and your state, not just the federal ones through HUD.
Yeah, those testers know exactly what to say to set you up. Everyone needs to be very careful when speaking on the phone or in person. All right, let's switch gears now and focus on something that might be in your control or might not be. And that is the topic of the best time of year to market your rental property. There are different schools of thought here, so we'll give you all the information and let you decide what is the best for you and your situation. Let's start with November through April. It's no secret that once Thanksgiving hits, people tend to be busier with holiday gatherings, shopping, celebrations, and vacations to visit family. It seems the farthest from the best time to market rentals is in December, as most people prefer not to move during the holiday season. Add in the cold weather and tenants trying to load, unload a moving van in sub 40 degrees, snowy, icy weather, and you've got renters opting to wait for spring before they think about moving. The upside to marketing your rental in the late fall, winter, or early spring? Generally speaking, more tenants are looking for units than are available, and a landlord can have the upper hand when setting their market rate. The challenge is finding the tenant that fits your criteria. The downside is the pool of applicants is smaller, and you may have a more challenging time finding your ideal tenant. You know, the one that meets your set criteria you follow. This can put a landlord in a situation where they may be tempted to lower their standards and place a tenant who they usually would deny just so they can get their unit rented and have income starting to roll in again.
Well, as we know from personal experience, this scenario usually does not end well. Every single tenant that we have gone with our gut and have not vetted completely, we have had a problem with. And then we end up with more stress and frustration than if we would have just waited for our ideal tenant. Additionally, the landscaping tends to not be as attractive during these months, so brown lawns and trees without leaves can hinder a tenant's desire to live there, as it's hard for them to visualize plants and colorful flowers in the dead of winter. Now, let me talk about the best time to market your rental property. May through October has the largest pool of applicants. Renters are more likely to move during these months as the warmer months do not create weather-related delays or issues like moving furniture out in the rain or on snowy, icy pathways. In addition, parents prefer not to move their children during the school months, opting for summer months so their students can make a smooth transition at the beginning of the school year come August and September. College graduates are moving to start their summer jobs sometime during summer months as well. Even though spring and summer seems to be the best time to market your rental property, supply and demand issues is one problem many landlords find during these months. There's an abundance of rentals available, so the market rate tends to be lower. The increase in supply may force a landlord to lower their rental rates to remain competitive and lease their unit quicker.
We literally just experienced this.
Yeah. It all worked out for us in the end, but we were looking at losing $100 a month when we first started advertising last May.
So here's a simple scenario. Let's say you want to rent your unit for, say, $800 a month. Would you prefer to lower your rental rate by $25 to $40 a month and earn $300 to $480 less that year? Or chance it by holding the rental for an additional month, maybe more, and lose $800 of rental income? The sensible option is to lower the rate and generate income quicker. Even in rent-controlled areas that limit the amount you can increase rents per year, the lower rental rate would still prove to be more profitable. Here's a tip for you. If your state allows it, consider adding an addendum with the condition that the rent will increase 3 to 5% in 6 months. This way, you only lose the reduction in rent for one half of the year. Ensure the tenant understands this rent escalation clause before signing the lease.
We rarely have any issues renting our units during the summer months. But here's the deal, though. These are also our busiest months for family obligations and vacations, and then also covering employee vacations. One of our whys for owning rental property is to allow us freedom to travel and spend time with family, much like we've done for the last couple months. We generally enjoy these activities most in the warmer months, so May through September. Having all of our units rented by June 1st with no upcoming vacancies until October is the optimal situation for us.
Which is why we prefer to work on unit repairs in February and March. Then we can place units for rent in April or May and do mid-year inspections in November. Vice versa, in the fall, we will do what we can to do any renovations necessary in September. Rent by the end of October and do semi-annual inspections in April or May. Those months seem to be the best for us to market our rental properties. But of course, it does not always work out like this. We often find ourselves dealing with move-in and move-outs in February or July, and guess what? We deal with it. We do what we can to avoid it, but life happens, and as much as we like to plan, plans fall through.
Yep, that happened to us a couple weeks ago. We did our best, but it all worked out for us in the end. Last week, we gave you suggestions on amenities, those that are part of your rental unit like AC, washers and dryers, patios, storage, parking, etc., and those that are perks from around the area of your property, like knowing the rating of local schools, the walk, bike, and transit scores, parks or walking trails nearby, sports complexes, and restaurants to go enjoy a night out, and then also employment opportunities like universities, warehouse shipping facilities, or government offices. The one thing we did not mention was don't forget to include your criteria in the ad. If you want them to earn a specific amount of income, make sure it's in the ad. So we go by net income must be 2.5 times the monthly rent amount. Why net income and not gross? Because these days employers are offering a lot of benefits to employees. A 401k deduction could be several $100s, as it also can be for health insurance. And with these deductions lowering their actual take-home pay, we like to use net income as our qualifier so we can make sure they can easily pay our rental rate and also have enough left over to eat more than a cup of noodles. Or if they have to repair their car or anything else that might come up unexpectedly. They will also need to know the monthly rent, any fees that are associated with the unit, what utilities that they have to pay for, the amount of the security deposit, and the parking situation are just to name a few of those important items.
Now, when you're putting all this information together, along with the specifics of your unit, say like 2 bedrooms each with its own private bath, or you'll love our 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a bonus room that's perfect for your work-from-home office, craft or music room, or as a playroom for the kids. You'll want to do your best to not write your ad copy in paragraph form. If you separate each item you want to detail on its own line, like in bullet point form, the person reading the ad will be able to remember more. When someone reads a paragraph, they tend to skim it. When they read each line, they'll retain more of the information. Why is this important? Do you realize how many ads this person is looking at when they're trying to find a new home? All the information gets blurred together and they tend to confuse which property had what amenities. When they go back to your ad, they can easily look over the verbiage and pinpoint exactly what it was that attracted them to your property.
So here's another tip for you. When texting or emailing in response to a marketing ad, always respond with the address of the unit. Again, they are corresponding with multiple rental property owners. They likely have multiple tabs open on their computer and each with a different property. Help them remember what unit is yours by including the address and even a link to the ad if you have it. Before you accept any applications, have them respond back to you by answering your top 5 to 7 qualifiers. These pre-screening questions will weed out those tenants that you otherwise would waste your time on by offering to meet them and then find out that they don't meet your criteria for acceptance. You can grab a free download with our top 5 pre-screening questions that we ask and why we ask them. I'll put a link in the show notes if you're interested. So, last month we had a vacancy. I received around 30 emails from interested parties, and we responded to each inquiry with, "We would love to schedule a showing or send you an application. But first, please take a moment to answer the following questions so we can make sure you qualify to rent from us." 10 people responded. So 1/3 of the initial interested people came back with answers. Of those 10, only 8 qualified. We ended up showing the unit to only 6 of those 8 qualified inquiries. And you know what? We found great tenants. We ended up having to process the applications, create the lease, and do the signing with DocuSign so that they could move in quickly, all while we were on vacation. And this is what systemizing your processes and having a kick-ass team in place allows you to do as a professional landlord.
Just make sure you have your laptop or your passwords with you so you can log on to all the related apps needed to complete this application process.
Yeah, no kidding. Knowing those passwords when you're traveling is key. Okay, we are on the final part of our How Best to Market Your Unit podcast, and that is where to advertise. I will tell you, there are many places to advertise these days, and I hate to say it, but 99% of our tenants come from Zillow or one of their related apps like Trulia or HotPad.
And why do you hate to say that?
Zillow is not ranked high on my list for greatness. That mess of a business they tried by buying homes and then selling or renting them to control the market was not right. And I get everyone's in it to make a buck, but their customer service is awful. As you know, several years ago, now, this was in the beginning of the housing boom when asking rents were just going up and up and up in the San Francisco Bay Area. We placed an ad for a family member who was renting out their single-family home for a couple of $1,000s a month. I want to say they were asking around $3,000 a month. They were right in there for this particular home, but the location of the home was in a very highly desirable area where rents could be well up over $5,000 or even $10,000 a month. So, because they don't live in the area, I help my family out with flipping the unit, placing the ad, and I meet prospective tenants for them, and they handle everything else. So the ad goes out and I get a couple of inquiries, but not nearly as many as I'd thought, until I get a call from a gentleman who asks for the name of my family member, which is odd because their name is nowhere on the ad. Only mine is. He goes on to ask if we had received his deposit of $5,000 that they had sent via PayPal. I explained I had no idea what he was talking about and asked if he had spoken to my family member to see if they had received it. To be honest, I thought this was someone who they had found and they were dealing with him separately and just hadn't told me about him yet. So I call the family member and I'm all ready to read them the riot act, just to find out they have no idea what I'm talking about. I should have known when the caller referred to my family by their formal name and not their nickname that they have used their entire life. So after some research, I found out that someone had hacked into the Zillow ad and put their contact information in place of mine. All the potential applicants were calling this person, and he was telling them that if they sent him $5,000, he would hold that rental for them so they'd have time to see it. If they liked it, he would apply the deposit towards the rent and security deposit. So apparently, these poor people had sent the bulk of their savings to this guy and they lost it all. When I called Zillow, and I kid you not, I was on hold trying to reach an actual person for over 3 hours. When I finally got a hold of someone, they tell me they're going to reset my ad, but there's nothing they can do about being hacked. It was a horrible situation. There was no, "Sorry to hear that," no, "We'll start an investigation," no, "We will give you a case number," no, "Can you give me the information for the other party involved?" Nothing. And I lost a ton of respect for them that day.
That was awful. I remember how bad you felt for that poor couple, and there was nothing that could be done.
Yeah, well, as our family would say, it was bad, bad, bad. However, Zillow seems to be the go to company for many potential renters, at least in the areas that we run ads for. We have just as good a luck with them on free ads as the paid ones, so we tend to try the free ads first and see how we do. If we don't get the initial response we're hoping for, then we'll shell out the $30 for a paid ad. Zillow offers an application service, but we don't use it. We have our own California based application that we prefer to use. We prefer to do our own communication when sending applications, and we email or text it directly to a prospective tenant, along with all the information that we need them to know to complete the application. Like, we ask for a $35 fee per applicant over the age of 18, photocopies of government issued IDs, income verification that we accept, the income verification information we accept, and what constitutes a complete application. We need all this information from each applicant in their group before we will even begin to process them. We process on a first received, first qualified, first served basis, meaning if we pull their credit or speak with their employer or a past landlord and find something that outright disqualifies one of them, we will move on to the next applicant group.
Stacy mostly handles the marketing, but other sites we used to advertise with but don't use any longer are Craigslist. It seems people who are looking for rentals from Craigslist never meet our criteria. Back in the day, apartments.com used to be a free site to list your vacancies, but now they want about $200 a month with a minimum of a 3-month commitment to place ads.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, I guess it's fine for a property manager or someone with like 100 plus units, but we just cannot justify that expense. Rent.com, apartmentguides.com, rental.com, and Redfin are all operated under the umbrella of realtor.com. And where you get great exposure, you can expect to pay around $20 a day for ads.
Yeah. You can also use property management software to post ads as well. We have said this in the past, but we love Tenant, and here's the deal. They allow you to post your ads even when you have a free account. If you want to have a paid account for like less than $10 a month, you get perks like free leases and forms and expedited rent payments. Avail is another company that offers advertising with their free account. With an upgrade cost of $7 per unit per month, you can get expedited payments, leases, and you get a website for your property, which is kind of cool. We have a coupon that gets you a $50 credit when you sign up with our link, which is like getting a couple months free depending on how many units you have. Other software companies we like and offer advertising for your rentals are Hemlane and Doorloop. With those companies, you're going to have to pay a monthly fee for advertising, though. We will add links to all these companies in our show notes. Please check them out and give them a try and see if they would be a good fit for the goals of your portfolio. So I guess we dove into the subject of marketing and rental property a little bit deeper than I intended. So last week we covered what to include in your ad copy, like amenities from your property, as well as the surrounding area. Kevin gave you really detailed tips on how to take professional-looking photos of your unit to use in your advertising. He even went over how to create walkthrough videos to really wow your potential tenants. And today we discussed the ever-lovely subject of staying fair housing compliant when writing your ad copy. Plus, when's the best time of the year to market your vacancy and what to do if you have a vacancy during a not-so-optimal time of year. Finally, we talked about all the different places you can advertise and place your ads. It may seem like a small detail, but making sure your marketing is on point is the best way to secure yourself with your ideal tenant, who will want to live in your unit for many years to come. But hey, here's the deal. We are here to help guide you as a DIY landlord. If you learned one thing by listening today, that makes us happy. And if you did learn something, would you do us a huge favor and take a moment to leave a review of this podcast? We have gotten a few 5-star ratings, which is amazing. But what we really need other listeners to know is how our podcast has helped you and what you love about listening each week. Whatever it is, we would love to know that all our hard work week after week is useful and paying off. We will put a link in our show notes on how to leave a review. While you're at it, would you also follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Your downloads each week allow us to grow and reach other DIY landlords. Remember, we're not in competition with each other. We all need to work together to be efficient, professionally operated rental property owners. The more landlords we can help with this, the better. Because as you systematize your investment properties, it lowers the overwhelm. In turn, this allows you more time to do the things you love. It also makes buying rental properties a lot easier. And if you'd like a link to the podcast delivered to your email each week, subscribe to our free newsletter, Landlord Weekly. Each week, we take a deep dive into a rental property tip, and we include several landlord-specific articles for you to check out. And of course, we include the link to our most recent podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Your Landlord Resource podcast today. This is Stacy and Kevin signing off. And until next time, you've got this, landlords.